Good afternoon and happy Friday to you. It is Tess Crawley here, of course, a clinical and forensic psychologist, director of Dr. Tess Crawley and Associates, and neighbour to a noisy dog. I hope you're having a lovely Friday afternoon / evening wherever you are today. Today being towards the end of Mental Health Week, I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of an illustration, if you like, of the impact of stigma, and not only stigma but negative self-beliefs. So in our society, of course, we have a number of values that we tend to hold as being rather high in our estimations of what's important. You think about the value of youth, you think about the value of attractiveness, you think about the value of certain body shapes, you think about the value of sporting prowess. So in our Australian culture, there are lots of things that we hold as being high values or highly prized attributes, and we will often, as individuals, measure ourselves up against those values, and we can be guilty of finding ourselves falling short of those certain values. And when we do that, sometimes we then beat ourselves up a little bit about it. So we think about the impact on our self-esteem when we find a few extra grey hairs or a few extra wrinkles or a few extra kilos, or not being able to meet certain sporting or fitness ideals and so on. We can actually look at those values and say, you know, I actually come up lacking and start to feel quite bad about ourselves. The same is true for mental health. So in our society, we assume that people are, you know, generally happy, and if you're not happy, then there's something wrong. And if you're one of those people who struggles with anxiety or struggles with depression, you might start to feel, well, I'm less of a person because I can't be happy all the time. The secret there, of course, is that nobody's happy all the time. The full suite of human emotions is actually the normal state. We are meant to have a range of emotions. But when we measure ourselves up against those values and find ourselves lacking, that can have quite a significant impact on our overall sense of value, our overall sense of self-worth. And we can underestimate what we're capable of if we listen to the voices that tell us constantly that we don't measure up. So today, I wanted to do a little illustration for you. And this is based on an idea. I was watching a video by Mel Robbins, who I've mentioned before, and I've been thinking about this concept for a while. So today, in honour of the ending of Mental Health Week, and in the interests of people, you know, thinking really hard about what does stigma do to us, and what do my own self-beliefs and my own sense of self-worth, what does that mean? How do I give myself a hard time, and can I overcome that somehow? So in the interest of those questions, I wanted to do a little illustration for you today. It's a little bit of a little magic trick. So here I have a piece of paper. This is just a blank piece of paper. You can see it's a lined piece of paper, a little bit torn on the edges. And you would ask, well, what does a piece of paper, what's the value of a piece of paper? Well, this I've torn out of a book, okay? So it's not particularly valuable, but it would be worth something to someone. You know, if this was the last piece of paper on the earth, what would it be worth? Who knows? Okay, so I screwed it up. What's it worth now? Do we think it's worth less? Do we think it's worth the same? It's the same piece of paper, and we judge it because it's all screwed up and all screwy, okay, and it's all wrinkled. And what's it worth now? Okay, that's how we sometimes judge ourselves. We think, well, I'm a bit more wrinkled, or I'm a bit screwed up. Maybe I'm not worth as much as that fit, healthy, young person over there. Okay, here's another piece of paper. What's it worth? Okay, we know the value of this piece of paper. This piece of paper, which actually isn't paper. In Australia, our paper money's made out of plastic, really, isn't it? But this piece of paper is worth $5. Okay, now if I screw this up, if I was a real rebel, I might even cut it in half, but I'm not going to do that. I've screwed it up just like I screwed up this piece of paper. Now I'm screwing up this piece of paper. What's its intrinsic value? What's it worth? It's still worth $5. Now, do you get where I'm going with this? Where I'm going at is your intrinsic value as a human being doesn't change just because of how you look, doesn't change because you've aged, doesn't change because your weight is different to what it was when you were 18, doesn't change just because you can't pack down in the front row anymore. Just because we've done this, the intrinsic value has remained the same. And I want you to start thinking about that little example. And if you don't, if that $5 doesn't convince you, what about this piece of paper? If I screw this piece of paper up and get it all wrinkly, would we throw it in the bin? Would we say it's too wrinkly, it's all old and tatty, or it has depression because it's all screwed up, or it has anxiety? Would we throw it in the bin? No, we wouldn't. We would say that's still $100. That's still really valuable in my wallet or my purse, or you know, in my business or whatever. It's still $100. That money, that $100 note, if we think about that as a person, we think about what stigma does. Stigma makes us judge other people. Stigma makes us judge ourselves. Stigma and stereotyped beliefs about what is valuable in our society can have us overlook the intrinsic value of individuals. And in ourselves, it can have us underestimate what our intrinsic value is. Now, what do I mean by intrinsic value? What is your value to your children? What is your value to your best friend? What is your value to your colleagues in your workplace, or the baker down the road whose shop you visit regularly to get your bread from? All those people hold you in some sort of esteem, and yet sometimes we will judge ourselves more harshly than will the other people around us. We will see the wrinkles in the piece of paper. We won't see the actual intrinsic. I'm trying to do this backwards in the camera. We won't see the intrinsic value. We just see the wrinkles, and we'll throw it away and say it's worthless. Okay. So today, the end of Mental Health Week. Hi Mel, hi Sally, I can see you've joined today. At the end of Mental Health Week, I want you thinking about that screwed up piece of paper and say, am I treating myself like that? Am I underestimating my intrinsic worth because of a few wrinkles, or because of a few grey hairs, or because I'm not as fit as I used to be, or because I have anxiety, because I have depression? Okay, am I undervaluing myself? Am I undervaluing what I can contribute to my family, my friends, society in general? Am I underestimating what I'm capable of achieving in my life? So they're fairly heavy thoughts for you to have and sit with on a Friday afternoon. And I hope that little example's made some kind of sense, because it's been rattling around in my head for a little while, and I thought it might be something interesting to share with you all. Have a lovely Friday afternoon. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow, being Saturday. I hope you have a great weekend planned, and enjoy some time with your friends and family if you can. Have a great night tonight. Bye-bye.